What's the purpose of writing a nonfiction book? Well, the skeptics think that books are just written for ego and to be this awesome person that's full of themselves. The generalists think that books are for book sales and you write a book and you make money from book sales. But the real ones know that books are for everything you desire in your business and your impact. That's lead generation, speaking engagements, credibility, bestseller status, clients, raising your rates, and so on and so forth. A book becomes your versatile marketing asset. But the ones who have actually done a book know that it's not just about all the outcomes that happen externally. They know that a book is the internal game changer to hitting the next level. And this is what this video is all about. It's the major shift that nobody can see, that very few people talk about, but that definitely happens when you write a book. And I'm going to show you some real results at the end of this. Now, this is the one thing that I didn't fully understand when I wrote a book. You see, I wanted to write my first book so that I could help my younger brother get a job. I wrote a career development book based on what I knew so I could help my younger brother and college kids get jobs. That book then allowed me to start speaking. I wrote multiple more books, and it all turned into this thing of, oh my gosh, a book can be the most versatile marketing asset that I ever have. That's why now I have 4 best-selling books. I wrote them all before I turned 30 years old, and I built multiple different businesses in different industries on the back end of those books, speaking, coaching, and publishing. And now we run a company called Big Idea to Bestseller, where we help entrepreneurs and thought leaders write, publish, and launch nonfiction books so that they can use it to grow their business, raise their authority, and ultimately make a lasting impact on the world. But the thing that I didn't recognize because nobody talked about it. You won't find many articles about this, but it was the thing that shifted. It was the thing that changed the perspective of how I viewed books and how so many people view themselves when they write a book. And this is it. When you write a book, it shifts who you become internally. The person you are when you start to write a book and the person you are after you complete writing a book are 2 different people, or an evolved version of the person you were. And there's a few reasons for this. One of the biggest reasons is because you've done something that has often been on your mind for a very long time, and you've actually completed something that so few people do. And that's a massive, massive accomplishment. Books are a widely respected accomplishment, and that's why everybody gets excited about a book launch. But the other side of this is that you also start to understand that you're as good as you believe you can be, or you're as good as other people have been telling you you are. So a lot of the reasons that people write books in the first place is because either they want to write a book to go to that next level. They write a book because everyone tells them, oh my gosh, you should write a book, you should write a book, you should write a book. But they don't because they're not confident enough. They don't think they have enough to say. They don't think their story matters enough. And when you write a book, this shifts. And there are 3 C's to what happens when you have this shift. The first shift that happens when you actually write and launch your first book is that you get a newfound sense of confidence. This confidence is what sets you apart. It's that feeling of like, yeah, I actually do know this. I just wrote 150 pages on this material. I am an expert on this topic. And it gives you a newfound sense of confidence. And so one of our authors, I'm just going to share with you, one of our authors, he gave us this testimonial where he said, your program truly changed me. Sure, I figured I'd get a book out of it, but I never imagined how it would change me as a person. I feel more confident in my abilities and more validated as a life coach. And what's interesting is that's the thought that doesn't get talked about. But it's often the shift that matters almost as much as anything else, because when you have more of this confidence, it leads to what we call conviction. And when you have the confidence that you are the expert, that you are the authority, that confidence allows you to speak with that authority. It allows you to speak with more conviction. And that conviction is a sense of, yes, I do belong here. Yes, I belong in that room. Yes, I'm as good as the person who keeps making money even though I know I have better stuff than them, right? That's that conviction. And so one of our authors said this, I love who I'm becoming as I write my book. It feels so empowering to unmuzzle my voice and unleash the beauty inside of me. And that's what it's all about. All right, so when you write a book, there's that shift, that internal shift that you become more confident. Then, as you're more confident, you start to speak with more conviction. And then there's the 3rd C, conversion. Conversion is where you're able to use this confidence, use this conviction to then create more opportunities. Let me give you an example here. If there are two people, and two people, let's say, have a book on the same topic, but one of them speaks really confidently, eloquently, and believes in what they're saying to the point where it gets you to believe in it, and the other person is kind of just going through the motions and they're saying it, but you don't even believe that they know it. Which person are you going to be more likely to believe has the answers that you're looking for? It's the person with conviction. Right? We see this over and over and over again is the change that happens when you actually write a book. You get that confidence. That confidence leads to some swagger. That swagger leads to conviction, and that conviction then turns into conversion. And conversion is where you then turn your book into a money-making machine. And I'm not just talking about book sales, but I'm talking about paid speaking engagements. I'm talking about consulting opportunities, live events, retreats, digital programs, physical products, service-based businesses, and everything in between. Right? And so a couple of our clients have made $16,000 in 50 days after their launch. Another author made $20,000 and felt she could promote the book much more. Another author made $10,000 in the first 45 days. Another author got 7 new high-ticket clients. And another author just doubled their monthly retainer. They didn't do anything else. They just doubled their monthly retainer once they launched the book, and that added an additional $57,000 over the next 6 months. So this is why I share this. This is why I'm so passionate. Again, this isn't going to hit the headlines, right? People want to see the results of, oh my gosh, you wrote a book and it led to this revenue. Yeah, we just talked about that. But it's so much bigger than a book. It's about who you become in the process. It's about how you start to see things differently, how you start to communicate things more differently, more effectively, how you start to get people to buy into what it is that you're doing. Take my 4th book, for example. I wrote a book called Big Idea to Bestseller. And you can get actually a free copy down below if you want access to it. But I wrote a book on Big Idea to Bestseller. I was coaching people. I'd written 3 books at the time, and I was coaching people on how they could write a book, run bestseller campaigns, and I'd started building this business. And it was great. And I said, I need to take this up a notch, but I need to feel like I'm at this next level. And so I wrote a book called Big Idea to Bestseller, which is on how to write, publish, and launch a book. And I would put that book up against any other person's book. And because of that, I had more confidence in my ability to do this. Fast forward, we ended up growing our business, 3Xing our business, and now we're continuously having a ton of fun building out this publishing company. And so this is what has happened to me. This is what we see happen to others. And so to recap here, the shift that's going to happen when you write a book, it's bigger than you think. And it's not always the external shifts that happen. It's the internal shifts that lead to the external results. And once you can adapt and you become more confident, you get more conviction. That conviction leads to conversion. And all of a sudden now all the external things that you have desired are right in front of you. All the possibilities have just become top of mind. So there you have it. This is the major shift that happens when you actually write a book, along with some real results that have come from this shift. And so I encourage you, if you've been thinking about writing a book, allow yourself to dig into this. Allow yourself to rise to the next level. Allow yourself to be seen as the authority that you are. Now, if you have more questions on this and you want to learn about the step-by-step process, then grab a free copy of my book, bigideabestseller.com/free-book. And if you want help building out a roadmap to go from idea all the way to a successful book, then I'd encourage you to go to bigideabestseller.com/call. So there you have it. That's the biggest shift that's going to happen when you actually write a book.